The fluorescent lights in the conference room buzzed with that persistent hum that always gave me a headache during long interviews. I'd been sitting across from Derek Chen, the hiring manager for Silverman and Associates, for 45 minutes, and I thought things were going well. Really well, actually. My name is Victoria Mason. I'm 35 years old, engaged to the love of my life, and until that moment, I thought I was about to land the job that would finally validate 8 years of clawing my way up from administrative assistant to account manager in the cutthroat world of corporate sales. Derek had smiled at my answers. He'd nodded approvingly when I walked him through my biggest wins. He'd even laughed at my story about landing the TechForce account by camping out in their lobby for 3 days straight until the CEO agreed to hear my pitch. The interview was going perfectly. Then he picked up my resume again. I watched his eyes scan the page. The same page I'd agonized over for weeks, had 3 different career coaches review, and had my fiancé James proofread at least a dozen times. It was perfect. Clean, professional, every achievement quantified, every skill relevant, every word carefully chosen. Derek's expression changed. The warmth drained from his face, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. Skepticism? Doubt? He set the resume down, leaned back in his chair, and folded his hands across his stomach. "Victoria," he said, his tone shifting from conversational to something cooler, more distant, "your resume seems embellished." The word hit me like a slap. "I'm sorry, what?" "These numbers, these accounts," he tapped the paper with his index finger. "I doubt you've actually handled major accounts of this caliber. The TechForce deal alone would typically go to someone much more senior." My mouth went dry. "I can explain every single item on that resume. I have documentation, references, performance reviews." "Victoria, I've been in this industry for 15 years. I know what a mid-level account manager's resume looks like, and this," he gestured dismissively at the paper between us, "this reads like someone who's trying too hard to impress. It's common, especially with candidates who are eager to make a jump, but we need to be realistic about experience levels." The room felt like it was tilting. 8 years of 60-hour weeks, 8 years of missed dinners, canceled vacations, working through holidays, 8 years of being told I was too young, too inexperienced, too female to handle the big accounts until I'd fought and scraped and proven myself over and over again. And now this man, this stranger who'd never seen me work, never watched me close a deal, never witnessed the late nights and early mornings, was sitting there telling me my accomplishments were make-believe? "Mr. Chen," I said, fighting to keep my voice level, "every single achievement on that resume is verifiable. I brought copies of signed contracts, client testimonials." "That will be unnecessary." He stood up, extending his hand for a perfunctory shake. "We'll be in touch, but I'll be honest with you, we're looking for someone with more authentic experience." I shook his hand mechanically, gathered my portfolio, and walked out of that conference room in a daze. The receptionist smiled at me as I passed. I couldn't smile back. I made it to the elevator, down to the parking garage, into my car. Then I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, shaking with a rage so intense I couldn't see straight. My phone rang. James. I almost didn't answer, but I knew he'd worry. "Hey, how'd it go?" His voice was warm, optimistic. He'd been so excited about this opportunity, about the salary increase that would let us finally buy a house instead of renting, about me getting the recognition I deserved. He called my resume embellished, said he doubted I'd actually handled major accounts. Silence. Then, he what? He basically called me a liar, James, dismissed 8 years of work like I'd just made it all up. Victoria, that's insane. You have proof of everything. You literally won Account Manager of the Year 2 years ago. Didn't matter. He'd already decided I was too junior to have done what I said I did. God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of having to prove myself over and over again. Come home, James said gently. We'll figure this out. But when I got home to our small apartment, I didn't want to figure anything out. I wanted to forget the whole humiliating experience. I changed into sweats, poured a very large glass of wine, and sat on the couch staring at nothing while James made dinner. You should report him, James said, setting a plate of pasta in front of me. That's discrimination. He basically said you couldn't have achieved what you achieved because of, what, your age? Your gender? I can't prove that's why he said it. Victoria, you're one of the best account managers in the city. Your numbers speak for themselves. Apparently not loud enough. We ate in silence. Later that night, lying in bed while James slept beside me, I pulled up my resume on my phone and read through it again. Every line was true. Every achievement earned. The TechForce account, $3.2 million in annual revenue. The Henderson Group, $1.8 million. Quantum Systems, Bridgewater Industries, Sterling Tech, all of them landed by me, serviced by me, grown by me. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe it was too impressive. Maybe Derek Chen was right. Maybe people like me weren't supposed to have resumes that looked like this. The thought made me furious all over again. The next morning, still angry but determined not to let one dismissive interviewer derail me, I went to work at Carmichael Solutions, where I'd been employed for the past 3 years. My boss, Linda Rothstein, was one of those rare managers who actually recognized and rewarded good work. She'd promoted me twice, given me the autonomy to pursue major accounts, and had my back when difficult clients tried to push me around. But even Linda couldn't protect me from what happened next. I was in my office halfway through a proposal for a potential client worth $4 million over 3 years when my desk phone rang. Internal extension. I picked up. Victoria, it's Linda. Can you come to my office now, please? Something in her tone made my stomach drop. I saved my work and walked down the hall to her corner office, my heels clicking too loudly on the polished floor. Linda's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown. Normally, I loved this view. Today, I barely noticed it because sitting in one of Linda's guest chairs was Robert Silverman himself, founder and CEO of Silverman and Associates, the company I'd interviewed with yesterday. My heart stopped. "Victoria, please sit," Linda said, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Silverman has something he'd like to discuss with you." I sat in the remaining chair, my mind racing. Was he here to threaten me? To make sure I didn't report Derek's behavior? "Ms. Mason," Silverman said, and his voice was nothing like Derek's dismissive tone. It was commanding but respectful, the voice of someone used to being listened to. "I owe you an apology." I blinked. What? "I reviewed Derek's notes from your interview yesterday. Then I did something he apparently didn't bother to do. I made some phone calls. To your references, to your clients, to your previous employers." He pulled out a folder, opened it. "Gary Henderson at the Henderson Group says you're the best account manager he's ever worked with. Says you saved his company $400,000 in the first year alone by restructuring their service package. TechForce's CEO, Marcus Webb, says you're relentless in the best possible way, and that your 3-day lobby vigil was the most impressive display of dedication he'd ever seen." My throat tightened. "Mr. Silverman," I started, but he held up a hand. "I'm not finished. After making those calls, I pulled Derek into my office and asked him why he'd concluded your resume was embellished. Do you know what he said?" I shook my head.
"He said it seemed unlikely that someone your age, with your tenure, could have landed accounts of that magnitude. When I pressed him on what exactly made it unlikely, he became—" Silverman paused, choosing his words carefully. "Uncomfortable. Started talking about typical career trajectories and industry standards. What he meant, though he'd never say it explicitly, was that he couldn't believe a woman in her 30s could have accomplished what you'd accomplished. The anger I'd been suppressing for 24 hours flared hot and bright. So what happens now? He gets a slap on the wrist and goes back to making assumptions about the next candidate? No, Silverman said flatly. He's been terminated. As of an hour ago, Derek Chen no longer works for Silverman and Associates. The room went silent. You fired him? Miss Mason, I built my company on merit, on results, on hiring the best people regardless of their age, gender, background, or how unlikely their success might seem to small-minded individuals. Silverman's jaw tightened. Derek's behavior was unacceptable. More than that, it was stupid. He let his biases cost us an exceptional candidate. In this industry, that's unforgivable. I didn't know what to say. I looked at Linda, who was smiling now, that proud mentor smile I'd seen a few times over the years. Mr. Silverman came to me first, wanted to verify everything with me personally before he did anything else. I told him the same thing your clients did, that you're one of the most talented account managers I've ever had the privilege of working with. Had? I caught the past tense, felt a flutter of panic. Linda, are you... Victoria, the reason I'm here, in person, is because I want to offer you a position at Silverman and Associates. Not the mid-level role you interviewed for, but a senior position, Director of Key Accounts. You'd be overseeing our largest clients, managing a team of 6 account managers, and reporting directly to me. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. Director? The salary is $180,000 base, plus commission and performance bonuses, full benefits, 4 weeks vacation, and a signing bonus of $25,000. He slid a folder across Linda's desk toward me. This is a formal offer letter. Take your time reviewing it. Talk it over with your fiancé. Linda mentioned you're engaged. Congratulations. But I hope you'll seriously consider it. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. The numbers swam before my eyes. $180,000. Director. Reporting to the CEO. This was beyond anything I'd imagined when I'd submitted my resume 6 weeks ago. But Linda, I said, looking at my current boss, I can't just... Victoria, if you don't take this job, I will be extremely disappointed in you. This is the opportunity you've earned. I've known for a year that you'd outgrow Carmichael eventually. I just didn't know it would be this soon. Her expression softened. I'll miss working with you, but I'll be incredibly proud watching you succeed at a level that actually matches your abilities. That evening, I sat at our small kitchen table with James, the offer letter spread out between us, and told him everything. About Silverman showing up at my office, about Derek being fired, about the director position with a salary that would change our lives. Holy shit, James said, when I finished. He picked up the offer letter, read it again as if to confirm the numbers were real. Victoria, this is incredible. Is it? I heard the doubt in my own voice. Yesterday I was called a liar. Today I'm being offered a director position. It feels surreal. It feels like justice, James corrected. It feels like someone finally saw your actual value instead of making assumptions. He took my hand. But the question is, do you want this job? Of course I want it. The money, the title, the responsibility, it's everything I've worked toward. Then take it. But what if... I hesitated, hating how uncertain I sounded. What if Derek was right? What if I have been lucky? What if I can't actually handle this level of responsibility? James squeezed my hand. Victoria, look at me. I met his eyes. You didn't get lucky. You didn't embellish anything. You earned every single achievement on that resume by being better, working harder, and refusing to accept other people's limitations. Derek Chen couldn't see that because he was too busy looking at what you're supposed to be, instead of who you actually are. Don't let his prejudice become your self-doubt.
I felt tears prick my eyes. when did you get so wise?" "I've been taking notes from my brilliant fiancé," he grinned. "Besides, someone has to keep you from underselling yourself. It's exhausting, but it's part of the job." I laughed, the tension finally breaking. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the job." "There's my girl." James pulled me into a hug. "And Victoria, when you're running that department and showing them all how it's done, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that your resume wasn't embellished. It was actually underselling you." I called Silverman the next morning and accepted the position. I gave Linda my 2 weeks' notice, which she graciously agreed to, though she made me promise to still meet for lunch once a month. My team at Carmichael threw me a goodbye party, where Tom, one of my junior account managers, gave a speech about how I'd taught him that confidence wasn't arrogance and that asking for what you deserve wasn't being difficult. "Victoria never apologized for being good at her job," he said, raising his glass. "And she never let anyone make her smaller to make them more comfortable. That's what I'm going to remember." My last day at Carmichael Solutions fell on a Friday. I packed up my office, said my goodbyes, and drove home, feeling a strange mixture of nostalgia and excitement. That evening, James surprised me with reservations at Giovanni's, the Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date 7 years ago. "What's this for?" I asked as the waiter poured our wine. "It's a celebration," James said, "of your new job, obviously, but also—" He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this." Inside the envelope was a card. On the front, in James's handwriting, "For the woman whose resume couldn't possibly capture how extraordinary she is." I opened it. Inside was a printout of an email dated that morning. It took me a moment to process what I was reading. It was from Marcus Webb, the CEO of TechForce, my lobby camping triumph from 3 years ago. The email was addressed to James. It read, "James, you asked me to put into words what working with Victoria has meant to TechForce. Here's what I can tell you. In my 30 years running this company, I've worked with hundreds of account managers, consultants, and service providers. Victoria Mason is, without question, in the top 5 most effective professionals I've ever encountered. Her resume lists facts and figures, but it can't capture her tenacity, her integrity, or her genuine commitment to her client's success. When I heard through the grapevine that some fool at Silverman had questioned her achievements, I wanted to call him personally and explain what an idiot he was. Victoria doesn't embellish. If anything, she undersells herself. Silverman is lucky to have her. You're lucky to have her. And anyone who can't see her value isn't worth her time. Congratulations on the engagement, by the way. You're marrying a force of nature. Marcus Webb." I looked up at James, my vision blurring with tears. "You reached out to Marcus?" "After what happened with Derek, I wanted you to have something tangible, something you could look at when you doubted yourself." James covered my hand with his. "But honestly, Victoria, I don't think you'll need it because I think you finally see what I've always seen, that you're exactly as accomplished as your resume claims, and probably more." "Thank you," I whispered, "for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." "Always," he said simply. "That's what we do." My first day at Silverman & Associates was a Monday in late September. The office was twice the size of Carmichael's, with a sleek modern design that screamed success. My office, my actual office with a door and windows and my name on a placard, was on the executive floor, 3 doors down from Silverman himself. I arrived early, at 7 a.m., wanting time to settle in before meeting my new team. But when I walked onto my floor, I found Silverman already in his office, door open, working at his computer. He looked up when he saw me pass. "Victoria, welcome. How are you feeling?" "Nervous. Excited, but nervous." "Good. Anyone who isn't nervous on their first day in a leadership role is either lying or lacking self-awareness." He stood, walked to his door. "Can I give you some advice?" "Please." "The team you're inheriting, they're talented, but they've been without consistent leadership for 6 months since our last director left. Some of them competed for your position. Some of them will resent that an outsider got the job instead. Your first challenge won't be managing accounts, it'll be managing egos. How should I handle that? The same way you've handled everything else in your career, by being undeniably excellent at what you do. He smiled slightly. Show them your value through results, not speeches, and don't apologize for your qualifications. You earned this position. Make sure they know that. At 9 a.m., I met my team in the main conference room. 6 account managers, 3 men and 3 women, ranging in age from late 20s to mid-40s. They watched me with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism as I stood at the head of the table. "Good morning," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm Victoria Mason, your new director. Before we talk about strategy or goals or restructuring, I want to acknowledge something. I know some of you applied for this position. I know some of you have been here longer than I have. And I know that having a new director brought in from outside can feel frustrating." The room was silent, but I saw a few nods. "I'm not going to stand here and promise I'll be perfect or that I know everything. What I will promise is this: I will work harder than anyone in this room. I will fight for your success as hard as I fight for my own, and I will never, ever ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself." I paused. I've spent my entire career being underestimated because I didn't fit people's expectations of what success should look like. I won't do that to any of you. If you have the talent and the drive, I'll make sure you get the opportunities you deserve. A woman in her early 30s, Jen Park, according to her nameplate, spoke up. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "I heard about what happened with Derek, that he basically told you your resume was fake." She leaned forward. "How did you handle that? Because I've been in situations where people didn't take me seriously, and I usually just tried to prove myself quietly. But you actually got him fired." "I didn't get him fired. He got himself fired by letting his biases compromise his judgment. But to answer your question, I handled it by being so undeniably good at what I do that when his boss actually checked my references, there was no room for doubt." I looked around the table. "That's what I want for all of you. I want your work to speak so loudly that people have to acknowledge it, even when they'd prefer not to." After the meeting, as the team filed out, a man in his 40s, David Reeves, senior account manager, hung back. "That was a good speech, but speeches are easy. Leading this team, hitting our numbers, keeping Silverman happy, that's hard." "I know," I said evenly. "That's why I took the job." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough. Welcome to Silverman & Associates, Director Mason." The first 3 months were brutal. I worked 12-hour days learning the company's systems, meeting every major client personally, and rebuilding relationships that had languished during the leadership gap. I restructured our account management approach, implemented new tracking systems, and held weekly one-on-ones with each team member to identify challenges and opportunities. By December, we'd landed 2 new major accounts worth a combined $7 million. By February, client satisfaction scores had increased by 23%. By April, our department was the highest performing in the company, and Silverman sent me an email with 3 words: exceeding all expectations. But the moment that mattered most came on a Tuesday afternoon in May, almost exactly 1 year after Derek Chen had dismissed my resume as embellished. I was in my office reviewing proposals when my assistant buzzed me. "Victoria, there's someone here to see you. Derek Chen. He says it's important." My stomach tightened. "Send him in." Derek looked different than I remembered. Older somehow, more uncertain. He stood in my doorway holding a folder, and I could see his eyes taking in my office, the title on my door, the view of the city behind me. "Victoria, thank you for seeing me." "I almost didn't," I said honestly. "What do you want?" "I wanted to apologize, in person." He stepped closer but didn't sit. "After Silverman fired me, I spent a long time being angry, blaming you, blaming him, blaming everyone but myself. I took a job at a smaller firm, convinced I'd been treated unfairly. And I kept making the same mistakes. making assumptions about candidates based on what I thought they should be rather than what they actually were. Eventually, my new boss called me out on it. Derek's jaw tightened. He asked me why I was so threatened by talented people. That's when I finally understood. I wasn't doubting your resume because it was embellished. I was doubting it because accepting it meant accepting that I was falling behind. I said nothing, waiting. You weren't supposed to be better than me, he continued quietly. You were younger, less experienced by traditional measures, and you'd accomplished more than I had at your age. That threatened me, so I dismissed you. He set the folder on my desk. I got fired from that second job 3 months ago. Been doing some consulting, some soul searching, and I realized I needed to come here and tell you that I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. I looked at the folder. What's this? A recommendation letter. For whatever it's worth coming from me. I know you don't need it. You're clearly doing fine without my validation, but I wanted you to have it anyway, as proof that I finally understand what I should have seen a year ago. I opened the folder. The letter was detailed, specific, and surprisingly gracious. It acknowledged his error and outlined point by point why he should have recognized my qualifications immediately. Thank you, I said finally. I appreciate you coming here. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasted your time, insulted your work, and made you doubt yourself even for a moment. He turned to leave, then paused. You know what kills me most? If I'd just done the basic due diligence, made a few phone calls, checked your references, I could have been the one to bring you to Silverman. Instead, my prejudice cost me my job and made me a cautionary tale. I heard through the grapevine that Silverman uses my mistake as an example in leadership training now, about the cost of assumptions. He does, I confirmed. I sat in on one of those sessions. It's very thorough. Derek winced. Yeah, well, I earned that. He met my eyes. Congratulations on your success, Victoria. It's well deserved. After he left, I sat at my desk holding his recommendation letter, thinking about how far I'd come in 1 year, from a humiliating interview where my achievements were dismissed as embellishments to an office on the executive floor where my success was undeniable. That evening, I met James for dinner. He was excited because he'd just been promoted to vice principal at his school, his hard work finally recognized, just like mine. To us, he said, raising his glass, to finally getting what we deserve. To knowing our worth, I countered, and refusing to let anyone make us doubt it. We clinked glasses, and I thought about everything that had changed since that terrible interview. The job, the salary, the respect, the confidence, but most importantly, the understanding that my resume had never been embellished. If anything, it had been incomplete. Because no resume could capture the resilience it took to keep fighting after being dismissed. No bullet points could quantify the strength required to demand respect in rooms where people expected you to be grateful for scraps. No achievement list could measure the courage it took to bet on yourself when everyone else was betting against you. The interviewer had said my resume seemed embellished, that he doubted I'd actually handled major accounts. Then his top client walked in, saw me, and said, "You're the one who saved our company." And suddenly, the truth was undeniable. I wasn't embellishing. I was extraordinary. And I had the office with the view to prove it. 6 months later, I stood in Silverman's office for my annual review. He slid a document across his desk, a new contract with an even more impressive title and compensation package. Director of Strategic Partnerships, overseeing not just key accounts, but new business development and client retention across the entire organization. You've earned it 3 times over. I looked at the numbers, the scope of responsibility, and the recognition of everything I'd accomplished. Then I looked at Silverman. Thank you for taking a chance on me when Derek didn't. I didn't take a chance. I made a phone call. I did the work Derek should have done. The rest was all you, he smiled. Never thank someone for recognizing what was already obvious, Victoria. Save your gratitude for people who actually help you, not people who simply don't stand in your way. It was the best advice anyone had ever given me. 2 years after that humiliating interview, I was keynote speaker at the National Sales Conference, addressing a room of 2,000 account managers, directors, and executives. My topic? The resume that proves itself. I told them about Derek Chen, about being dismissed as embellished, about Robert Silverman making phone calls and discovering the truth, about working so hard that your results speak louder than anyone's doubts. The question I get asked most often, I said to that audience, is how I handled being told my achievements weren't real. And here's my answer. I didn't handle it. I let it destroy me for about 24 hours. I doubted myself. I wondered if Derek was right. The room was silent. But then someone did something revolutionary. They checked. They made phone calls. They talked to my clients. And they discovered that not only was my resume accurate, it was actually underselling me. I paused. Here's what I learned. Your resume is just a piece of paper. What makes it powerful isn't the words you write. It's the work you do that makes those words true. After my speech, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 27, nervous, clutching her own resume. "Miss Mason, I just got told my resume seemed overly ambitious for my experience level. They said I should tone it down." She looked like she might cry. "Should I?" I took her resume, read it. It was impressive, really impressive. And knowing what I knew about imposter syndrome and underselling and the constant pressure to make yourself smaller, I knew exactly what to tell her. "Don't change a single word," I said firmly. "If it's true, it belongs on your resume. And if someone can't believe you accomplished this much, that's their problem, not yours. Your job isn't to make your success believable. Your job is to make it undeniable." She smiled, stood a little straighter. "Thank you." "No," I said, thinking about James and Linda and Silverman and everyone who'd believed in me. "Thank you for not making yourself smaller. We need more people who refuse to apologize for being excellent." Because that's what I'd learned. My resume was never embellished. I was just that good. And finally, I believed it.